Jordan Rapp, the morning after the day before, congratulations on your first Kona. Overall, what was your experience?
I think I'd be lying if I said it was that primary emotion was not some disappointment. You know, I think I had better than a 13th place in me. You know, I think I am better than a 13th place finish, and I think I had probably better than a 13th place finish in terms of preparation and fitness and all of that. But you know, I didn't. I made some mistakes, including one that you really can't make here, and had a poor start on the swim, and I think that really, you know, that put me in a rough spot. And you know, it's just the reality of Ironman racing in general, and especially Ironman racing here, that if you find yourself, you know, behind after the swim, it's going to be a really long day. And if you find yourself behind early in the start of the swim, you're almost certainly going to not be able to make that up. Just the nature of ocean swimming and the nature of, you know, world championship caliber field swimming. So
talk us through the mindset when you come out. You were down. What was going through your mind as you exited into T1?
So I mean, I didn't expect to see 59 minutes on the clock. I didn't expect to hear that I was 9 minutes down. But you know, once that happened, you know, I knew that it wasn't a case of, okay, I'm going to really hammer the bike and I'll try and catch up, right? I mean, that's not going to happen. 9 minutes is not going to happen. You know, if you're going to make up, you know, time, it's going to be over all 180K. So I thought, okay, so best case scenario is I just ride essentially as steady as possible. Maybe, you know, in the back half, try and push the pace a little bit, you know, on the watts. But basically, you know, I think this was probably my steadiest Ironman, you know, in terms of pacing, like ever, you know, because I could be, you know, it was a bad thing, right? Like I was always just sort of just executing my own race. But you know, obviously the first little bit is always going to be a bit fastest, and other than that, I pretty much, you know, sort of just the way the winds were blowing, it sort of was a bit of a drop off, and then actually sort of negative split it from terms of power coming back. Some of that is just the feasibility of, you know, you need the terrain. It's kind of hard to say, you know, oh, this is my power. You know, you're coming that descent from Javi, I mean, even with a 55.11, you can't stay on it. So, you know, once I got back on the Queen K, you know, started putting the power down and chipping away. And I think someone said, actually, if you go from like the 60 mile point until like, you know, I think like 15 miles into the run, like that chunk of time right there, like I actually, like I was the fastest in the field, which would be great, except that, you know, the prior parts and then sort of the end was not sort of that same caliber. But you know, I think I did what I needed to do on the bike, which was to just sort of make some time. You know, maybe could have rolled the dice a little bit more and maybe tried to, you know, crank out an extra 1 or 2%, you know, and maybe split a little bit faster. But you know, it's hard to, you know, and I thought I might make a bit more progress than I did.
I saw you hitting the Queen K, you were leaving, and just the starkness of the terrain and you know, what you hear about the lava, etc. For you, was it as daunting a prospect, just, you know, for your mind when you head out onto something like that, after hearing all the tales of, you know, the lava and what it has to offer for the athletes?
No, I mean, I actually, in some ways, I enjoy riding like that. You know, I would have enjoyed it if it had been, you know, off the front as opposed to off the back. But I think this is a great course. You know, if you enjoy just sort of being out there and seeing, you know, what you have in you.
The front of the bunch, the Harvey Express as it's known, obviously takes off. There is real advantage though, isn't it, in being in that front pace line?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, some of it is just other riders, and I mean, I don't think it's not so much a draft at the legal distance. It's more just that when that legal distance gets rolled through, right? Like somebody passes you pass someone. During both of those times, it is less than 12 meters. I don't think there's a massive advantage to being in a pace line at 12 meters. It's the advantage from guys rolling through and falling back, and if there's a direct headwind, which there was at times, then yeah, I mean, you can see a little bit, but You know, and then obviously, you know, the camera crews are out there watching the front of the race to see, you know, what happens. And I mean, everybody knows that. I don't think that, you know, that's not to say that, oh, it makes the race unfair, right? It just means, in some ways, it makes the race more fair because you think the swim is so short that the swim is given extra importance by the camera crews on the bike. So I guess that even though the swim is only, you know, sort of a ninth or a tenth of the race, it has added importance because of the camera crews. So I guess it makes it a truer triathlon in that sense. But you know, I think you saw some of the power files getting posted. You know, and I you know, put out, you know, cranking out more watts. I think I have good equipment, good position, you know, but still giving up, you know, 4 or 5 minutes on the bike, you know, despite putting out, you know, a couple more power and more power to weight and all that kind of stuff is shows you, you know, that yeah, I mean, you got to be at the front of the race if you really want to be in the race.
You talked about the conditions, the headwind. How severe was it out there out of Harvey and coming back into town?
I don't have a reference for how severe it was here. I mean, I wouldn't say that it was even close to the worst wind that I've ever ridden. You know, I mean, I live, you know, down near the coast. You know, when we get the Santa Anas blowing through, I mean, I would say that certainly I had plenty of days in training where the wind was worse than it was here. I mean, it's a tough wind for sure, you know, and especially it shifts a lot, much less predictable than the Santa Anas are, where it's kind of like, you know, they're going west to east. I mean, had a headwind for, I think, about 15 miles out to Hawi, turned around, had a ripping tailwind for about 5 miles, and then it was back into a headwind. So, I mean, that certainly is a challenge, is that you can sort of be fighting a headwind. It's an out and back course, but you can fight a headwind the whole way.
So you have a reputation in the sport as being a thinker, not just somebody who goes out and does, you know, the miles, etc. What data, what are you taking away from this experience? You know, we had you pegged as someone who would use this to your advantage your first time out, getting what you know, getting, you know, the details done. What did you take out of this race?
I think that, I mean, it confirmed a lot of why I had not come to this race, the importance of the swim, you know, and the fact that I always felt that was like a weak link. For me this year, I felt like I was swimming well in training. I think the big issue probably this year for me was that due to the timing of New York, you know, and needing to get ready to be sort of Ironman fit in general, like everything got compressed. You know, I think in an ideal world where I'll go next year will be, I'll take a time in that sort of those 9 weeks, probably, you know, 3 to 4 weeks to really sort of have the bike mileage dialed in and have that checked off the list, have the run sort of checked off the list where I'm still doing what I need to keep it, but really put in some time, focus to really tune my swim up, because when I swim well, I think I am a good swimmer, you know, especially in the pool. You know, probably could use some more time practice in open water, so, you know, like to do some more of that, you know, go down to Malibu and ocean, maybe come here and do some more open water swimming. But I think, you know, in an ideal world, I would have really been able to say from 5 weeks or 4 weeks out to really be, you know, hitting it hard in the water, so that, you know, on race day I felt like, you know, I was firing, like I was at my best shape for swimming. And I think I sort of had a sense that that was the right way to approach this race before, and now it's like, yeah, absolutely no question. And I think, you know, overall I did a big swim block to start last year, and then my swimming, I think, fell off when I started to bring the cycling up. In the past I've done big swim blocks. Last year I did a swim block also with a run to see if maybe if I'm swimming and running, I'll hang on to it. This year, you know, maybe need to try and find, but then the biking I think took a lot out of it. This year, try and figure out a way to sort of, I think, try and hold on to some of those speed that I know that I can find. You know, I have some good access to other guys to swim with. You know, Simon Whitfield, close friend, is now making the shift to long course. Connected him with my coach, Michael Kruger. So, you know, now I have the same coach again. I think, you know, when I used to swim with Simon, I think, you know, overall I was a worse swimmer, but my start was definitely better. You know, when you're swimming with ITU guys all the time, it was sort of like, it was great because I used to have the 200 meter speed. The problem was I would sort of make the front group, but then I get popped off because I didn't have the fitness. Now I have the fitness to stay in the group, I just can't make the group at the beginning. So hopefully, you know, now that I have that fitness, you know, sort of add in some more what I used to do, and then hopefully bring that start speed back up, and then, you know, hopefully have that whole package on the swim.
And one last one, the season's been a great one for you. You've been back in form, you've been on top of the podium. What are you going to take away from this season?
Yeah, I think you know, I think it shows you that championship level racing, you can't have a, you know, a real weakness. You know, I think in New York, you know, I think I got any weakness of swimming, I think gets glossed over, obviously, when you have a current that's pushing you to, you know, 41-minute swim. So you know, that's hard. But I thought, you know, I had some reasonable performances over the summer. You know, and even actually, like, sort of, you know, the lead man last week I thought was a good takeaway, right? You know, swam with Brian Rhodes for a lot of that. You know, hard to know how hard he's swimming, but, you know, in a small group to be with Rhodesy, I thought that was a good sign. But I think overall, you know, I know that I can run as well as, I think, you know, maybe not the very best runners right now, but I think certainly among the top level runners. I think, you know, if I've been able to get off with, you know, guys like, you know, Andreas Raylert and something like that, you know, I think I certainly could have kept them in my sights. And so that's a big confidence boost to know that I have that sort of dialed in. You know, I feel like bike continues to improve and just sort of continue to push the way that I've been doing. And I think it just sort of cemented the plan that was, you know, this upcoming year I'm going to do a lot less long races, try and get back in the short course scene a little bit, and just really almost, you know, it's sort of like, I think some people do the Ironman. I need to sort of validate a short course, right? Like, I'm going to be the guy that sort of does the swim and then sandbags so I can go do another short course race the next week. You know, but I think getting in those races where it's basically 1,500 meters full on and where the start is as fast as you can get. I mean, maybe even some Continental Cups or some, you know, it's nice. There's some ITU races now in the US. I mean, and I think, you know, I can pay the bills at an Ironman or two a year, and I'll do that. And then other than that, you know, I think a lot of guys do the sort of half Ironman thing. Thankfully, some good points even at 13th, and I'll do Texas next year. And other than that, I think you'll see me doing a lot of Olympic distance racing over the summer.
Awesome. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and thanks again for your involvement with First Off the Bike.
Thanks very much.